now we've got a really special treat this year, and that is our keynote speaker, who will be here just momentarily. And she is, I've heard nothing but incredible things about her initial conversation this morning with a group of business leaders. Tim's been hyping this for weeks and talking about what a wonderful presenter she is and what a wonderful opportunity it is to have her here in Pittsburgh. I'm not even going to introduce her. That's not my job today. That role goes to Tricina Cash, from the Executive Vice President of the Eastern Minority Supplier Development Council, which of course works on supplier diversity and development expertise for the EMSDC corporate membership and diverse suppliers across our region. And please welcome Tricina to introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you, everyone. First of all, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. It's wonderful to see so many representatives from organizations and companies that we work with. Your commitment to the region's growth and progress is truly commendable. I am especially excited to introduce you to our distinguished guest speaker today, Audra Bohannon. I first became familiar with her just a week or two before the shutdown, watching the live cast of the Black Enterprise Magazine's Women of Power Summit that I always wanted to attend, and a lot of her message during that time stuck with me. But I actually met her last year when I got to go to Vegas and attend the conference. And when I met her, I said, I want to get you to Pittsburgh. And so I'm very thankful that I was able to make good on that promise. Audra is a thought leader and an advocate for DEI. Her work has inspired countless individuals and corporations to rethink their approaches to leadership and inclusion. Her insights are not only profound, but also actionable, offering a roadmap for creating more equitable and inclusive environments. As we listen to her today, I encourage you to think about how we can apply her experience and, of course, her wisdom within our own organizations and communities. The work of DEI and progress in our region requires all of us to work together. By supporting and uplifting one another, we can champion DEI at every opportunity. Please join me in welcoming Audra Bohannon.
Greetings and good morning. It is a pleasure to be with you today. And let me see if I can get this, because I tend to walk away from the podium. It is a pleasure to be with you today. Our time is brief, and one of the things I wanted to ensure, as much as I can, is that you will leave here with a stronger connection to that which you can do to continue to drive diversity, equity, and inclusion here in Pittsburgh. In order for us to get the most out of our time together, I need for you to do one or two things. Either pull out a pad of paper with a pencil, or open up your phone and go to notes. We will be moving fast. I will be moving you around the room. There's a lot I'm going to be asking of you, and I hope you're willing to go with me on this journey. The very first thing that I want to ask you is that every person that has approached this stage, they walk away with an ask of you. They're asking you to do things to continue to make or to achieve a vision of making Pittsburgh the place that is inclusive for all. So my first question to you is to write down these two words. What is your appetite for change, and what is your readiness for change? Because you're hearing a lot of good stuff, and it's real easy to get swooped up and get inspired and feeling good, and you walk out and nothing happens. So I want you to be thoughtful. This is called leadership. It's personal. So I'm getting ready to sort of get in your business a little bit. And I want you, so I will ask you questions, and the questions are going to come from a place of connecting with you, connecting with someone else, and connecting with me. So there's going to be a lot of connection going on. Are you all ready to go on? I can't hear you. Because I got on a hearing device, so I really need to. Can I hear you? Yes. All right. So I'm going to share with you the first slide. One of the things that has become clear to me is that we're all works in progress. We're all works in progress. Where I was yesterday does not mean this is where I am today. Where I am today does not mean this is where I'll be tomorrow. The question is, what can I do to get better? You know, what can I do to move out and begin to see things and move forward based on what I see so that I will be able to get better? And that's what I want to do with you with our brief time together. So I'm getting ready to show you a visual. And what I would like for you to do is to tell me, what do you see first? I'm going to repeat. I'm going to show you a visual, and I want you to tell me, what do you see first? What do you see? I hear people telling me they see a vase. Could be a table. What do you see? Okay, somebody sees an hourglass. How many of you see two faces? Okay, so we got a table, we got an hourglass, we got a vase, we got two faces. Who? Thank you, Tim. Who is right? Absolutely. It's all about perspective, and it's all about your perspective. If I do not see a vase and you see two faces, it does not make one person right and the other person wrong. It is we both see something that's different. And the only thing that we're going to do in our time together is, want to go back to as personal, is being able to open that aperture up again so that you might be able to see a little bit more than you see right now. So the next piece that I'm going to move forward is, if you can stand, I'm going to ask you to stand. If you can't, stay where you are and somebody will come to you. And I would like for you to walk to one person in this room that you do not know. And find that person quickly. Okay, have you found your person? Does everybody have their person? One of the things that I am going to encourage you to do, and hear me on this, I'm going to encourage you to sit in your truth. If you don't say a word to the other person about what you're really feeling, that's up to you. You share what you feel comfortable sharing. But the most important thing here is for you to be serious about what I'm asking you of you. Based on what you feel comfortable sharing, then you can decide on what you're going to share out. But first of all, make sure you get real clear and sit in your own truth. There are 2 questions up here that I would like for you to answer, or 3. What are your private thoughts about diversity, equity, and inclusion? I don't care what you read about. I don't care what people say you're supposed to feel about it, but what do you really, really think about diversity, equity, and inclusion? And here it says, what are your reactions to what's going on in this country as it pertains to difference? Especially as it pertains to what's going on in the Black community and what's going on in terms of all of the hatred around. Well, there's just a lot going on, and you all know it. I don't have to repeat it. How have you been talking about it to those who are close to you? How do you talk about it to your siblings, to your children, to your colleagues? Because that's important. What kind of conversations are you having? And the last one is, what conclusions have you drawn? So please, you only have a few minutes because we don't have a lot of time. So you got about 5 minutes to have a real quick conversation. Make it deep, make it real, make it authentic. Go for it. You have 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left. One more minute. Okay, everybody, I'm going to ask you to pause. Can I have your attention? Let's go, let's go. Yo, yo, yo. The only thing I'm doing is asking you to put a comma in your conversation. You'll get a chance to chat in just a moment. But I want us to, when I say it's personal, it's personal. So for example, if my thoughts about diversity, equity, inclusion is, you know, I'm worn down about this, I'm tired about this, I just want to go to work every day and I don't want to be bothered with all of this, then when the mayor tells you it's time to step up, what are you probably going to do? No. If you're tired and worn down and now you're being challenged to step up, what are you probably going to do? You're going to let it go. When you just got a request to fill out the survey, how many of you stamp your cameras and you're probably not going to ever do? If it's something that's important, it becomes important to get done. So the only thing I'm saying is how you're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. How you're talking about it, how you're thinking about it, will impact what you choose to do. That's right. And if you're thinking about Pittsburgh and really taking Pittsburgh where you know it can go, it's going to take each and every one of you to step it up. But I can't step it up if I'm sitting up here saying the glass is half empty. I can only do it if I say, as tough as it is right now, as tough as it's going to be as we move towards November, with all the stuff we got to manage and we have to think through, there are still fissures and cracks, and I'm not going down until I'm going to take it all the way to the mat. If that's how I'm thinking, then all this great stuff that's coming my way, I'm grabbing it. I can't wait to get out of here. I can't wait to implement. So when I say it's personal, and the only thing I want you all to think about is, what am I thinking about when I think about diversity, equity, and inclusion? What's in my heart? What kind of conversations am I having? Are they ones that are going to promote and uplift? Or am I starting to get defeated and I'm starting to slow down? Now, even if you do feeling defeated or you're feeling slow down, that's a reality. At least acknowledge it. Because I'm telling you all, I've been in this space for 41 years. As I told everyone at the breakfast this morning, when I started out, diversity wasn't even a name. It was about affirmative action. And then I saw diversity and inclusion, and diversity and inclusion, and now diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now it's diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging. I've seen it all. But at the end of the day, we're still not where we want to be. There's still so much, we've made a lot of progress, but we got a long way to go. And when you think about Pittsburgh, and you think about the vision, and you think about the possibilities, and you think about you wanting it to be a place that's welcoming for all, then as a citizen of this community, what's my responsibility? What's my responsibility if I take it? See, it's personal, colleagues, it's personal. Now, I'm getting ready to play both sides of the coin. As I said this morning, one hand does not clap. So, there are two things that are going on in this city. One is people with power, people with influence, people that can make things happen, have a responsibility to work on making the vision actualized. But I sat here and I heard the mayor said, for the first time in the history of Pittsburgh, you have 3 contractors. Major contractors. Three. Okay, in the history. What you cannot underestimate is what has been happening to our spirit as we have watched the absence of major contractors going on in this city. So the thing that gets real important is for you to say, how am I showing up? How am I showing up? How am I stepping into all of this? Because I've been living in Pittsburgh all my life. And I've been getting beaten down all my life. And I'm tired. You know, the words sound good, but you know what? I just don't feel like it. So you can't understand. This is what a participant said in a session of mine. She came up with a term, and she called the term spirit murder. Spirit murder. And this is what she described as spirit murder. She received a huge promotion, and she wanted to honor and acknowledge her mother because of this promotion. And one of the things her mother wanted was an Hermes scarf. And so she got on a plane and flew to New York to go to the Hermes boutique to get this scarf to gift to her mother. She got to the store, and you know in New York, most of your fine boutiques, you got to push a button to get in. You got to push the little doorbell, right? She pushed the doorbell, and they would not let her in. And she said, Audra, it was like someone took a pinch of my spirit. And so the only thing I want you all to know, as you have been managing your lives in Pittsburgh, and as you have been thinking about all the things you have wanted for Pittsburgh, you can't underestimate the cost of little bitty pinches on you because things that you wanted did not happen. Because you all have ambition, you have goals, you have aspirations, you have visions, but sometimes things happen that can be shown that are as the result of discrimination, or as the result of racism, or as the result of any other thing you want to come up with. And the only thing that happens is that it will slow you down. And I will tell you this, if any of you in this room are in a place where you are stuck, stalled, or stopped, you won't win. That's right. If you're in your comfort zone, you won't win. This city does not need you in your comfort zone. This city needs folks who are willing to take risks, who are willing to get out there, who are willing to have some conversation, and who are willing to make some things happen. And so what you want to do is bring your best to the table. But you can't bring your best into the table if you're kicking and fighting every single day about, okay, this not working, or this not working, or trying not to think about it. So let me just give you a couple of other things that I would like for you all to give consideration to, because I want you to have one more conversation. Yeah, you can, but don't go too far, because you're going to be talking to your friend, your colleague again. This is what I want you all to hold on to. I say here, mindset is a way of thinking that influences feelings and directed actions. That's what I just brought up to you all just a minute ago. What is your mindset about diversity, equity, and inclusion? Is it a non-negotiable? There are things in your life that are non-negotiable. You are not going to allow them to be compromised. Is this one of those things? And it's okay if you say yes, and it's okay if you say no. Just be real about where you are, and also understand if you buy into the vision of where Pittsburgh is going, then you have a responsibility to participate. You can't be a bystander. I think, did you say upstander? Somebody said upstander earlier. You got to be able to stand up and be a part of it. And I love this quote by Carol Dweck. This means you don't get stuck, stalled, or stopped. You stay in motion. She said, becoming is better than being. Think about that. I always want to get better. My focus when I get up is, well, how can I be a little bit better today than I was yesterday? And that's what she's talking about. But here's something. Remember I said I want to play both sides. I'm doing one hand does not clap. Can I be very candid?
Yes, please do. Please do. It is being much.
If you really, nobody wants to talk about this. But I want to have a conversation about rumors of inferiority. Rumors of inferiority. And what I mean by that is that there are some demographics that are thought to be superior in intelligence. And there are also demographics that are thought to be inferior in intelligence. Black people are thought to be inferior in intelligence. So it doesn't take you too long to draw conclusions that when you wonder why your leadership roles are so absent in terms of black talent, or places where you think there should be a stronger population of black talent and it's absent, if it has anything to do with leadership and you drill down into the root system, sometimes there is concern that black folks do not have the potential to lead. And for those of you in the room that are black and are in leadership roles, you understand the higher you go in leadership, the more pressure you get, because black and intelligent do not go together. So one of the things we have to get in touch with is what is my fundamental belief in my potential? Do I really believe that I can do it? Based on my ambition, is the sky the limit, or has it started to shrink a little bit over time? Because one of the key individuals that supported me in my development over the years, he said, he was talking to a group, and he said, in fearing the lie, and he was talking to a black community, in fearing the lie that we are genetically inferior, we ourselves play the dominant role in perpetuating it. Because with so many opportunities readily available, many of us opt out. We blink. This is my hand. My hand represents an opportunity. Watch my eyes. We can't see it. We blink because we're dealing with some of the things that can feed into our spirit that causes us to wonder whether or not we really can be as good as we want to be. And so I just wanted to talk about this piece of potential. How many of you have heard the phrase or have even used the phrase, you know, so-and-so is high potential? Do you all have high potential programs in your organizations, or have you heard people use the word high potential? If you have, would you please raise your hand? Yeah, we've heard high potential. But guess what? If you have high potential, you gotta have low potential. Nobody talks about low poles. We just always talking about so-and-so is high potential. Or have you used the term so-and-so is a high achiever? Have you ever thought about high over what? We don't say highly developed. We don't say underdeveloped. We go overachiever, which again feeds into this whole piece around intelligence. And so once you get to the point of saying, well, before I say that, is there any person in this room that speaks more than one language? Okay, I'm seeing some hands go up. Thank you. One of the most complex things you can do is to learn a human language, even sign language. And how young are we when we open our mouths and words come out, the person who is listening understands, sends something back, and you can respond, even if it's just a few words. How young are we? It's usually 3 years old. People, colleagues, if you can learn to speak a human language at the age of 2 or 3, you can do most of these jobs that's running around in the city of Pittsburgh. We are capable, and I'm not using this word casually, we are capable of brilliance. But we won't move in that direction if we don't believe we can do it. So I'm going back to, I said both hands does not clap. Based on your demographic, what messages have you received about your potential? What messages have you received about your intelligence? And how can that get in the way of you having the aperture open as much as possible so that you can see the possibilities and the opportunities? Because that's what you want to be able to think about when you're the grand old looking back over your life and you're looking at legacy and you said, I have lived well. What does that really mean? What does that mean when you say, I have lived well? I have no regrets. I might have some disappointments, but I don't have any regrets. It comes from you. This is what we talk to the kids about this one, and this is what a principle that I really stand by. And I'm going to ask you all to capture it. If it's important to your long-term development, if it is important, find out how good you can be. And I'm going to repeat it. If it is important to your long-term development, find out how good you can be. And I had a colleague in a session, and we were meeting twice. And she came up to me at the end of the session. She said, Bohannon, I said, yeah. She said, you know what, for the next 30 days, everything I touch, I'm going to find out how good I can be. I said, okay. She said, I don't care if it's making a bologna sandwich. I'm going to find out how good I can be making that bologna sandwich. I said, well, you go for it. And she came back to the session 30 days later. Her name was Eunice Royster. I said, Eunice, how did it go? She said, damn, I'm good. But guess what? It scared her. She was so good that she retreated. Because it's not always about fear of failure. Sometimes it's also fear of success. Can I really be as big and bad as I think I can? And am I willing to put forth the effort to see the reality of that? So I'm going to say it one more time. If it is important to your long-term development, find out how good you can be. And as you're finding that out, think about how your performance, how your expansion of your capabilities can also support you as we think about what needs to be done around diversity, equity, and inclusion here in the city of Pittsburgh. See, that's how it all starts coming together. Again, I just want to say, around your leadership and around your development is personal. I opened up with saying this is going to be personal, and that's why I wanted to ensure that you all could just think about, what does this really mean for me? So I'm going to move. I've already said this, but I think it's on the screen. It says, based on the way many people have been socialized, potential has been thought of as some have it and some don't. Again, if we come into this world whole, your potential is your foundation. It's going to be based on your effective effort, how well you build it up and how well you expand it out. Now, I also want to share with you this. I want you to look into your own world. I want to see right now how inclusive you are. These are personal questions. This is not anything you're going to share. But what I do want you to do is to do your own assessment. And the assessment is this. When you think about your go-tos, how many are different from you? However you want to base difference. It could be based on sexual orientation. It could be based on race. It could be based on gender. It could be based on any demographic that you have. But how many are different from you? When you think about who you give stretch assignments to, how many are different from you? When you think about who is on your high potential list, quote, high potential, how many are different from you? And does your organization mirror the markets and clients you serve or want to serve? We are tribal. We are most comfortable with people who are most like us. That is just the natural order of things. When you talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, that means you are used. In fact, let me give you an assignment. Does everybody have a pencil and a piece of paper? I'm going to ask you to do something, and I'm going to time you. Now, I have to span this whole room, so if any of you get done, just throw your hand up in the air so I can see you. Do not do it until I say start. I want you to sign your name with your dominant hand. Are you ready? Go for it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. I think I got 7 hands. Okay, most of you have your hands up. Now I want you to sign your name with your non-dominant hand. Go for it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11. You know I'm going to stop at 12. Colleagues, what's my point? Anything you do based on the status quo, you do it without thinking, and you do it with speed because you've been doing it your entire life. You are used to going to the right. I'm now going to tell you for the next month, everything you do, you have to go to the left. It's awkward, it's uncomfortable, it's something you don't feel like doing. Why can't I just go back to going to the right? This proves it. Twice as long. When we think about getting yourself, remember I said, what's your appetite and what's your state of readiness? Well, when you get yourself ready for really going after making the change you want to make for the city of Pittsburgh, because it's going to take everybody involved. Some of you are going to be awkward. Some of you are going to be uncomfortable. Some of you are going to say, why? And the only thing that's going to hold you to it is if diversity, equity, and inclusion is a non-negotiable for you, and it is important for how you live your life. Like I told you, I've been doing it 41 years, and and as crazy as things are right now, I would not choose to be doing anything else because I'm so passionate about it, and it's so important to me. That's what gets me up every single day. You have to make the decision. You have someone, have you heard this quote? The 2 most important days of your life, the day you were born and the day you figured out why. So it really is connecting you to purpose as well around, is it important enough for me to be willing to make some change? Now, I want to share this with you, and I want to be conscious of time. I only have about 8 minutes left. I wanted to share this with you. When I am working with ethnically diverse talent, and especially when I'm working with black talent, I ask them, what are some of the barriers that you face that other people may not be aware that you face? And for some of you in the room, you might identify with these, and some of you may not, but I just wanted you to be able to see. These are the kind of conversations I have when we're in a room and it's just us having a conversation about what are the headwinds that you face based on your race. And they talk about the fact that, you can see, I feel like I have to wear a mask. I can't be authentic. I can't bring my whole self to work, although I have to say, I was having a conversation with a group and they were just fussing. I can't bring my whole self to work. I can't bring my whole self to work. And finally I said, hold it. They said, what? I said, I don't want to see your whole self. I want to see your best self. That's what I want to be able to see. But sometimes we feel like we can't bring who we are to work, and we have to wear a mask. We have to smile. And we, even though we're dying inside, we just smile, I'm doing fine. Also, we talked about you're held to a different standard. You know, some people get a pass. Why in the world do some people get doubted and other people get the benefit of the doubt? See, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a different standard. Not seen, invisible. I had a chance to be involved in a huge initiative we were doing at Korn Ferry, and it gave me a level of exposure and visibility in the firm that I had never had. And this was right after George Floyd was murdered, because I was doing some tremendous work. It got visibility all around all the organization. And one of the senior client partners came up to me one day. He said, my God, you are a rock star. Where have you been? And I said, I've been right here. You just haven't seen me. So sometimes we're seen as invisible, constantly proving. And here's something, and I think you all understand what I mean when I say this. How many of you in this room have felt like you've had to prove yourself? You always feel like you're having to prove. And we never finish the conversation. Proving what? And underneath it all, it still is around intelligence. I want to prove that I am as smart as. And I thought about it. I said, why in the world, when we say we want to prove that we are as smart as, we're comparing ourselves to a demographic, as compared to saying, put an I and an M in front of prove. I'm going to move through the world improving to a standard of excellence. That's why Olympians take things to a whole new level. They don't compare themselves to the people next to them. They say, how do I keep moving it to a standard? So instead of moving through the world being haunted by I have to prove that I'm smart enough, I can move through the world saying, you know what, I got just as much as anybody else, and it really is about how well I improve to hit a standard of excellence. So that's what I meant when I said proving. And then the very last thing is marginalize, patronize, and scrutinize. I was having a good conversation with a friend of mine in Seattle, and we were talking about just all the headwinds we face, and we came up with this thought. We said, as we move through the world, we will not be marginalized, patronized, or scrutinized. Now, I would not recommend anybody do what I did, but I will tell you. I was having a conversation with one of the senior leaders at Korn Ferry, and she was just totally out of place. She just was all over the place. And when she got done, I looked at her and I said, are you new? And it shut her down. I mean, she was like, oh my God. I mean, and it came out so fast. It wasn't the best response, but that's what I wanted to say. Are you crazy? You know, no, you're not going to go after me like that. I deserve to be treated a certain way. I role model how I want people to treat me. I am clear about that. And if I step on any of those three things, those are my non-negotiables. Do you know where your non-negotiables are? Because the minute they come up, then you got to grab them. You have to arrest them. So I just wanted you all to be thoughtful about what might be some barriers for some. So here are a couple of thoughts as I move to a close. Whenever I'm working with clients around how to create environments of inclusion, the very first thing I say to them is no matter what the difference, especially around intelligence, no matter what the difference you think, believe that all people can learn. If you just start there, you're starting in a good place. And then once you believe all people can learn, then expect for them to learn. And then as it says here, expect effective effort, expect they can learn, and then provide constructive feedback. And I want to emphasize that last one, because I am worn down when people come together, when we come together for conversations, and people will say, every time I talk to my manager tells me I'm doing fine. But yet I don't get any feedback on what fine means. So I was having a conversation with a group of managers, and I said, let me share with you something. They said, what? I said, when you have performance management conversations with your people, you give them feedback on their technical skills. You're doing fine. You're doing fine. You're doing fine. I said, but when you get behind closed doors and you have to make a decision about who's going to get the promotion or who's going to get expanded responsibility, it has nothing to do with technical skills. The person doesn't have the heft, the gravitas. The person's executive presence is just a little off. I'm not sure whether or not I want that person in front of the clients. I said, none of that has to do with the technical skills. I said, the same thing you do when you talk about them behind closed doors is the same thing you should be bringing to the table so they can get the feedback and get better. Because that's what we're talking about. How do you take your best and get better? And so the whole notion is about how do I continue to engage in a process where I'm going to create an environment of inclusion. And I can tell you this, every single day I go to work, I have discretionary effort. And I can choose to give it to the firm, or as I said this morning, I can choose to give it to my smartphone. I got 2 different places I can go. If you create this kind of an environment where you believe that all people, and I'm emphasizing, I'm putting all in capital letters, you believe that all people can learn. You expect the best out of them, and you provide them with effective feedback. They will bring it to the table every single time. But if they don't get it, that smartphone becomes quite important. So this is what I would encourage you all to continue to do as you do on your journeys. Wherever you are, wherever you sit, however you self-identify, when it comes to such a broad area of diversity, equity, and inclusion, get conscious. Don't be driven by your subconscious, because if you be driven by your subconscious, you're going to maintain the status quo. Yeah. And then get curious. It's one thing for me to ask you a question coming out of curiosity. It's another thing for me to ask you a question coming out of judgment. And when I come out of judgment, I am overlaying my values on you, and that's not fair. What I should do is I should come up to you and say, you know what? I'm so used to going to the right, but I noticed every day you go to the left. I'm curious. Talk to me about why you go there. That gets it. And you all know what it feels like for somebody to ask you a question out of judgment. You know it. You know what it feels like. Get curious. And then at the end, get serious. I mean, get serious about this. You all have a phenomenal opportunity. I am meeting your mayor for the first time today. He inspired me, so I know he inspires you all the time. But there is so much opportunity in this world. And my concern is that we're going to get caught up in all this nonsense that's going on in this country. And we're going to try to pull ourselves back and retreat and try to hide, as opposed to commanding our space and saying, hell no. Whatever fissures and cracks I can find, I'm going to find them. Because I know they're out there. And I am also clear that I want to be a participant in making change. I want to be a participant in making things better. I want to be a participant in making sure those who come behind me don't have to deal with this. I have to tell you, I've been around a lot. You see this little gray hair up here? I've been around for a long time. And I really didn't think that Generation X and Generation Z would have to deal with some of the things that we dealt with as boomers. But the reality is it's still real. So my hat is off to all of you, and I want to commend you on coming together and being a part of a process that can absolutely be phenomenal, not only for you, it's personal, but also for the city of Pittsburgh. Thank you very much. Marla just shared with me I have a couple of minutes for Q&A if anyone has any questions. Do I see it? Oh, you want me to sit down?
Good afternoon. Thank you for sharing this knowledge. You have inspired me, as the mayor has as well. But what is the hardest thing you have encountered when trying to get people to change their mindset?
I'm going to add a piece. There is nothing in this world that is as value-laden as diversity, equity, and inclusion. So change in general is a tough process, but when you bring people's values in, so for example, if I was raised that homosexuality was wrong, and I'm a very religious person, and I walk into an organization and I'm in a leadership role, and everything in the organization is about LGBTQA, it's hard. Because everything in me is telling me it's wrong, but I'm looking at a reality where they say, no, you gotta change that. So that's the only thing. In general, change is rough, but on this one around diversity, equity, and inclusion, it is even harder because I'm tapping into your values about what you believe is right and what you believe is wrong. Now, let me tell you where we're seeing improvement, and that is you have conversations with people and you talk about the business. And if you want to be successful as a city, you want to be successful as a business, at the end of the day, when it comes to, especially, I lived in corporate America, so I talk shareholder value all the time. You will make, if you go after talent, just talent, you will always get to a better place. And I was sharing with the group this morning about Lowe's. Are you all familiar with Lowe's? Okay, well, the piece that I think is absolutely critical is that when Marvin Ellison, who is the black CEO of Lowe's, when he started 4 years ago, the stock price was $85 a share. Today, the stock price is $217. His executive committee is predominantly people of color and women. His board has a high percentage of women and people of color, and he orchestrated that over the 4 years. So if someone wanted to look at him and talk about it, he said, that's all I need for you to do is look at your dividend check. Because green is green. So don't come to me. So he is a perfect example. I love in fact, the Harvard Business Review is getting ready to do a case study on Lowe's. It is a phenomenal example of how he saw potential in all of his people, and he understood that black people tend not to give an opportunity. He says, no, we're going to change the whole narrative on this, and he's done a successful job of doing that. You're welcome.
First, I just want to say thank you. I thought your presentation was incredible and very informative. So before I say anything, let me acknowledge that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My question is, because I think you hit the nail right on the head, is mindset. I think mindset is a I think it changes the dynamics from searching for perfection to searching for excellence. And my question is, because this is the state of where our city is at for so many different reasons that you mentioned here today, is how do we communicate more effectively? Not that we don't communicate, but communicate more effectively to keep going after decades of rejection of a people. Because a lot of times in this city, it's what you just said, spiritually people are beaten down because they come up with grand ideas, and it was just never received in the city. And it's funny, I had someone ask me the other day, where's all the black professionals, black wealth? And I said they left for greener pastures because they found it, you still got to deal with racism, but it wasn't thick where they went as thick as it is here. So what you have is the residuals, those that's left over. And their mindset is, it's going to be the way it's going to be,
Yes.
and no change is coming.
Yes.
And that's the juggernaut
Yes, it is.
for us.
Yes.
And so I would love to hear, because I'm always talking about the mindset, because I had to change my mindset, and that's not easy.
How were you able to change your mindset?
The truth, I went to Morgan State University.
Okay.
And when I got to Morgan State University, I seen people that came from the same social economic climate that I came from, but they were pursuing higher goals. I got to see business people that wasn't drug dealers. I got to see professors that wanted to be teachers and taught as teachers. My first day of class, and people don't understand how powerful, how much of an impact this had on me. My first day of class was January 1990, when a certain university was going to the state to get the governor to defund Morgan State because they wanted the engineering lab. And I went to school that day. Me and his son was going to school. I went to class that day, and the professor asked me, what are you doing here? I said, you teaching, right? He said, your lesson is not in the classroom, but it's with your classmates. You must fight to make sure that we don't get defunded.
Okay.
And walking down there and seeing a black mayor named Kurt Smoke, seeing Kwasi Mfume walk our campus, and seeing some of the people that we consider legends now help us make sure that Morgan State stayed funded was something that I had never seen.
Okay.
And that's where the mindset for me changed.
There it was. There are two things you just said in your story. The first one was exposure, and the second one was to be cocooned and support the people that believed in you. So when you go back to how do you get people who may be helpless all the way here to, I'm not sure we can do it here, and very few here to say, let's go for it. You start here and you start moving these people in this direction. But the main thing I have to do is to see evidence. Help me to see that I can write with my left. I'm right-hand dominant. Help me to see that I can write with my left hand. And so if you think about how you inspire and how you move people, move them to a place where it is around action that will produce evidence, that will continue to get action, that will continue to move evidence, so that you get them to see that in 24 months we're going to be in a different place than we were today. But I have to see evidence, just like you had to see at Morgan State, how you had to see it. Then once you saw it, you were able to grab it. And then they kept making sure you saw it, and you continued to grab. And then look what has happened. Now you're the mayor of Pittsburgh.
We have time for one more question. You want to ask another? Yeah, I'll ask another.
I'm curious and nosy. Do you think FAIR plays a big role in the sense of diversity, inclusion, and equity? That conversation of when it started with affirmative action, it's us against them, that when you're saying diversity, you're taking something away from me instead of welcoming. So that's that fear of I'm going to lose something if I invite you in my space.
Absolutely, and I'll take it a step further. Uncomfortable, all the way over to really afraid, and everything that goes in the middle. And this topic is one that most people are afraid to talk about. So I shared with the group this morning, right before I left Korn Ferry for about 2 years, right after George Floyd's murder, I ended up going around on Zoom and during the pandemic and met with CEOs and their executive teams. and almost to a group, they would always ask me the same question. Audra, what do I do? Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I told them, I said, you get paid too much money. I'm not telling you nothing. You know, you get paid to solve problems. This is a problem to be solved just like anything else. But it gets people tied up in knots because they just don't want to have to touch it. And if you think that you're going to, it's a scarcity model and not an abundance model, you get real tight. And see, that's what's going on in this country. You know, when someone says, so-and-so took my job, excuse me? Since when did it have your name on it? You know, so people are afraid that they're going to lose. So you say fear of losing causes you to get real protective. And you're not willing to necessarily open yourself up to say, how can 1 + 1 = 3? As opposed to 1 - 1 = 0. You're welcome. Thank you for the question. Okay.
Let's give our keynote speaker, Audra Bohannon, another round of applause.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.